upstairs, not the downstairs, but the riser. And I'm on my phone doing my thing, and I hear two people walk in, and they sit down across from me. I'm like, okay, they're noisy, they're rustling quite loudly. Still focused on TikTok, I love TikTok. And then, all of a sudden, I see one guy go down. I'm like, what the fuck? Did he drop a bag or something? Whatever. Still focusing on my social media. And then I turn around again, wondering what the fuck is going on. He gets up, he turns, looks at me, and I see him do this. The next thing I know, I was wondering if there's one or two people there. His buddy gets up, and he's like, whoa. And his dinky is just hanging out there on his pants.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And right at that moment, the Go security opened the sliding door and they're like, hi, sir, are you okay? Is everything all right? Obviously, his fucking penis is hanging out, so instead of going the aggressive route, they're more super sympathetic and considerate. The washroom's over here, sir. I'll escort you to the washroom. We have your friend. He's okay. You can go back there and take care of your friend and continue on with his blowjob. I did not see a blowjob, but I did taste cock in my mouth for the first time. Like, ugh, it was too visceral. Who's next on the list, Jake?
It's Gabby.
Gabby!
Oh my God.
You are our number 2 on March 2nd for our second real open mic.
Alright, I'm around.
Everyone, welcome to the stage.
You know, there's also a snare on the other side.
Yes, we do have 2 steps. 2 steps.
That's fine.
Ba-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Gabby, trees of something? Landscapes of...
No
landscape.
No landscapes, right.
Have
No
you seen that
landscapes.
movie Blow Up? With the guy, the cinematographer?
The blow up? What?
Never mind.
Antonioni.
It's yes. Yeah, he have you seen Blow Up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so he goes to an antique store and he buys a propeller that he bonds with a girl over later. You know the girl who wants the photos back? Anyway. Oh, someone's back. Oh, that's my cold. Hello. That's okay. So I didn't bring a book. I tried to put it on my little cue card. We'll see what happens. I have a friend on Instagram who's a comic. Not a friend. I don't know her, but I send her messages sometimes. And I was like, do you just keep saying the same jokes over and over again? Because I already told a bunch of jokes before. And apparently, yes, you keep telling them over and over again. But I have new ones, so I hope that that's less boring. I wanted to make a strong statement about ghosts. I feel like I don't understand why people are afraid of ghosts. No one really gets mad when they see a ghost. And I feel like if you're in my house and you're not supposed to be, I'm gonna get mad at you. I consider that just like trespassing. And if a human is in your house, you say, hey buddy, what the fuck? But a ghost you're scared of. But like a ghost is like half of like a human. Because like a human has a spirit and a body. And I'm probably gonna interact with the body if I'm afraid of them. But the ghost is just a spirit. So like, why aren't we mad at them? You know, I don't know if they're like afraid of hell or like whatever the fuck, they need to deal with that somewhere else. So that's my thought on ghosts at this time. I also want to say that I think that straight men are gay, and here's my theory. I think like no one hates straight women as much as straight men, but I feel like part of attraction is liking someone. So I feel like if you're a guy and you really hate women, like maybe explore the fact that you're gay, because you should maybe like women. You know, they're fun, they're nice. Oh yeah, this is one I couldn't tell because there's a little girl here last week. So have you guys ever heard the term keep your legs closed? And I was wondering, like, do you guys think that's like insensitive to people who are raped doggy style? Like, I feel like that's kind of fucked up, you know? Like, so yeah, I did not tell that. Unless she's like secretly back there. Let's see. Oh yeah, I have a new commentary, heavy-hitting commentary about. I've heard that apparently in the Harry Potter fandom, there's something called Snape wives, who are like really big fans of Snape, and they think that like the spirit of Snape can like enter your husband's body and like you can fuck Snape through your husband, which is obviously terrible. And but I was thinking, like, what's the appeal of Snape? Like, just that he looks like Trent Reznor? Like, that can't be the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know a lot about Harry Potter. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think I told you all the jokes before. I don't know if I tell them all again, but
Let's hear it.
we'll just come. Oh, okay.
Keep going, Daddy.
You think? Okay.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Okay, it's so red up here. Oh, so yeah, I think I told you last week that I identify as a hipster because I do have bangs and glasses, but also I had a really big butt in the 90s before it was cool. I think men have, I think that we generally have enough pornography in the world. Oh wait, how many talk about pornography? Because I feel like we've seen all the boobs and the vaginas and the vulvas that exist. We could have stopped well in the 70s, you know, but so I think we should stop all pornographic production. There's nothing else new. We have bukkake and just, it's done. But anyway, I was on Pornhub the other day and I got this ad and it said, "Are you tired of masturbating?" And I was like, "Lady, I'm just getting started. I don't understand who is quitting here." Like, I that's very unrelatable. Oh yeah, so I have this idea about how if you know someone really well, you can tickle them to make them laugh, but you can't tickle a whole audience. You have to like get up here and talk. So I don't know why we don't do that with orgies, because like you can't just like fuck a whole room of people. That's crazy. We should have to get on the stage and dirty talk until everybody comes. You know, hopefully at the same time. You know, that's more efficient and. Oh yeah, this one I like. I can't let my kids listen to Michael Jackson, but I can't tell them why. He's a bad man, but I literally said, he's just, don't worry about it, he's just a bad man. I think candy ass sounds like it should be a good thing, and not a bad thing. What else is there? Oh, okay, I'll just close with this one about I had a dream, this is a real thing. I had a dream that my husband found these like lightly used pads of mine, and he said, "Why don't you use them again?" And I thought, like, no, you can't use them again, you don't know what you're doing. And I realized that if men had periods, they would be like super gross about it. And they would like scratch and like have bloody hands and stuff. And so you like get up to your boyfriend's truck and you'd be like, "Steve, do you have your period?" And he'd be like, "Why are you think I'm bitchy?" And he'd be like, "No, it's just everything's covered in bloody handprints, you know, just." Anyway, that's about it. Thanks, guys.
Gabby, everyone. Gabby? I can relate to your husband. You'd be like, "Yeah, why can't you use your pad again? It's just a little bit of blood." Okay. Our next performer is a wonderful storyteller. He was on stage earlier, pacing, projecting, even sitting. So he is going to show you a plethora of his styles that he has acquired. Mike Dorchester. Dorbecker.
Yeah.
It's your chicken scratch, Mike. It's
My chicken scratch is awful. Durbecker.
Mike Dorbecker, everyone.
Just an open question. Do I look like a weirdness magnet? I am one. Fortunate me. I don't know why. I am a pasty late 50s, or sorry, not late 50s, my God, thank God. Mid 50s, which is kind of a lateral move. I have long hair at the moment because I wanted to change the pace. When the true weirdness happened to me a couple of years ago, I had very short hair. I was working for a bank, which is about as much fun as it sounds. In downtown Toronto, there's kind of a uniform for anybody who works for a bank. It's called business casual. We all know it. So it's going to be like chinos and a white shirt, sometimes button down, sometimes a tie. Everybody wears the same thing. You can be working in a law firm, you can be working for a bank, you can be working for a medical office. You're going to be wearing the same thing. I've gone downstairs to a really expensive sushi restaurant, which has a really cheap kind of outlet right beside it that you can line up and get cheap sushi at lunch. I'm there with around 15 people, and it's like a hallway. You have to walk into it, and you look at the refrigerated content, and you grab the sushi you want, and then you look at the hot content, you grab one if you want, you walk to the hallway, you pay for it, and you leave. This is what normal people do. I did not have that privilege. So the day I was there, with everybody else in their business casual, and I'm standing, and there's a woman in front of me, she's, I don't know, early 60s. She's also dressed a little nicer than the usual business casual. I think she's a financial planner because she's got really expensive earrings. That's kind of a hallmark. You have clothes you can get at the Bay, and you have jewelry you get only at Tiffany's. She's staring at the sushi as if it is going to change her life, and I just want to reach past her to get some veggie rolls and some wasabi. So I say, excuse me. And she turns and she stares at me as if I'm an alien. So one more time, I didn't have long hair at the time. I had short hair. I'm wearing business casual. All I want is lunch. And she's looking at me as if I'm the Antichrist. So I try to engage. I say, sorry, can I just... And she keeps staring at me. Now the crowd moves a bit at that point, so I can just walk around her, go in and grab my sushi, I grab the wasabi, I pay for it, and I'm trying to leave like a normal person does. And I'm around 5 steps away. She's stepped out of the lineup. She's left the restaurant. She stands up in front of me and goes, "Who are you?" Don't engage the crazies, especially in Toronto. Do not engage the crazies. I just said, I'm getting lunch. And I walked away from her. This is downtown Toronto. There are lots of people. I've got my lunch. I'm walking at a regular pace. And I notice in the reflective store windows that she's following me. Now, I don't feel threatened exactly, but I have no idea what the hell is in her head. I don't want to engage her because she's probably going to explain why she has decided following me is a very good idea, and whatever she's going to say, I don't need to hear it. I told you I'm working for a bank. I work for a very boring bank. The boring bank has outlets all the way through this particular mall, one of which you can only get through with a security pass, which I have. So I swipe the pass, I walk in, I close the door, and I stand there waiting for her because I think she's going to try the door. There's a security guard at the door as well because all kinds of people try to go through anyhow. And I'm standing behind him, and I stand there for a minute. He's about to say, "What the hell?" And the door starts shaking. He opens it. I don't know if she sees me. She sees him, and she is terrified. She jumps back. He says, "Can I help you?" She stares at him and says, "No!" And then wanders away. I explain this to him, and he says, "Do you want me to escort you back to your office?" No, I don't feel threatened by a legal assistant in business casual who's over 60 years old. And I went back to my office. I don't really have a moral to this story other than don't engage the crazies, because I had seen her before. Because like everybody else who works in that area, she gets hungry and she wants cheap sushi at lunch. I had been in that lineup with her before. I knew what she looked like. I knew what jewelry she wore. I went there 3 or 4 times after this fact and did not trigger whatever response she had for me that particular day. Just kind of a warning. I mean, this was harmless, but every so often you will find somebody who has a very, very good reason to be doing what they're doing and to be talking to you the way she wants to be talking to you. Don't talk to them. Thank you very much. Good night.
Mike Dorbecker.
I'm saying it's German. Durbecker, but Dorbecker is German, so.
Dorbecker.
Durbecker.
Dorbecker.
It's as dumb as it sounds.
Mike, you read like, you perform like how I would read a book.
Cool.
You have that voice of a narrator, but you do it so fluidly. So you have more stories.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful. You're more animated. See? Exercise.
I'll take it. Sweet.
Next on the show is a man who dreamt this very engagement, this very moment. For without him, we would not be here and creating our dreams. Everyone, the dream starter, Jake Jank!
Yeah, I guess it's, it's kind of hard to talk to people and be magnified because it's kind of interesting, the first place that I go to is, why does anybody want to hear me anyway? Like, am I taking up your time? I want to talk fast. It feels like, I think I worked it back to my sisters. I grew up with 3 older sisters, so I basically grew up hearing constantly to shut up. And I had to really talk fast, and I had to talk loud, and I'd, try to get all that information in there, but recently I've realized that I gotta slow down, it's, gotta breathe. And breathing is really what it all boils down to, isn't it? I mean, talking is breathing, breathing is breathing. I mean, what are we doing when we're talking? We're ejecting air out of our lungs. We're pulling it back in, and we're doing it in such a way that's kind of coded, and there's like fluctuations in the pattern. And like imagine this mic isn't here, there's fluctuations in the air. I'm pushing the air, and it's going into your ear. And then it's causing some electrical signals to be started. Something else fires, and then before you know it, in the neuron, there's a whole bunch of firing of neurons going on, and you're having this experience of hearing this coded message and then working it out what it means, and then like, holy shit, there's a lot going on, but it seems so simple, right? It just starts with a breath. And so I guess what I'll do is I'll just talk about things that I get wonder and awe. It's hard to say, A-W-E, awe. Not the A-W-W-W like I would if I was talking about puppies or babies, like, aw. But awe, like, a lot of words come from awe, like awesome, but also awful, comes from it. It's like something that just makes you stop and go, holy cow, this is what we're engaged in, this is where we are right now. And the thing that just comes to mind, it's something that I discovered at a fairly young age, just the sense of the big and the small, right? And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because that gives me some wonder and awe. It's like everything you see here, and if you've taken some rudimentary science, that might be old news, but it's something worth repeating. It's like everything here is made out of, 100 different atoms, more or less, and really about 10 of them make up most of it, right? And that's weird. Like, you're telling me everything I see is just like 100 things, but it gets even weirder, right? Because then you think, well, what's the atom made out of? And we're going smaller. Like, we start at our scale, and we have everything at our scale, and there are things that we can basically see and deal with and connect with and interact with. That's our scale, right? And then there's a scale that's bigger than this, and a scale that's smaller than this. We don't have direct experience of it, but we're finding ways to get information from there. So you ask yourself, well, what's an atom made out of? There's like 100 atoms that make up everything. What's an atom made out of? And you're quick to find that, it's actually made out of 3 different things. It's like there's a proton, a neutron in there, and there's some electrons spinning about. And depending on what kind of, ratios that you have there, all of those 100 atoms are made out of those 3 things. Holy shit! And everyone's just walking around like nothing, everything's normal. And we live in some weird mystery, and it continues to get weirder. And, without even going up to the bigger scale, just keep going down, and you think, okay, so what are these protons, neutrons, and electrons made out of? oh, that's easy. Now we know that they're made out of quarks. And you go, okay, what the heck is a quark, right? And I get the sense that they kind of name these things to be kind of whimsical, you know, like, look at us, we're not just nerds, we can come up with fun names like quarks, but, you know, it is kind of fun. But then, oddly, they have 2/3 charges, and they have, like, weird whimsical names, and there's only a few of them, and they make up all of those other particles, and, like, we just keep going down, and you go, well, what the hell's a quark made of? Turns out it's just a string that vibrates. Right? A string that vibrates? You know, it stops making sense at some point, and it stops making sense because we're thinking on our scale, right? Everything we see and experience and everything that we've evolved to connect with in our universe is really at this scale, and only for practical reasons, right? I mean, we connect for practical reasons, like we had to get from here to there, so you do things, like you ambulate, you move. You want to eat, you take things in, and it's at this scale. But you go down to that scale, and then it becomes kind of abstract. It's no longer a thing that you can touch. And the same weird shit happens when you go back the other way. Like you think, again, maybe you've heard all this before, but it's something that I just every now and then need to repeat and just get a sense of the magnitude of it all. So from our scale here, you know, we're on a planet. It's going around the sun, and we have a moon going around us. But this planet is going around the sun, and we have other planets going around the sun, and that's called our solar system, right? You've got just one solar system that we live in. But that's kind of at the edge of a galaxy that has hundreds of millions of these, billions of these, as Carl Sagan used to say, billions and billions of these solar systems just in our galaxy. And then you find out that the galaxies actually start to cluster together. And you have like galaxy clusters, which each of them have billions and billions of stars on. And these galaxy clusters are kind of have like galaxy superclusters. And they kind of congregate in different parts of the universe. And it just gets really mind-boggling really quickly. And you think, well, I mean, how big is that? It's really hard for us, because it's out of our scale. We can't think in those terms, but we can put some numbers to it that give us a sense of what's going on. So, how far is that? Well, you really have to know the speed of light to even make sense of that. It's like, do you know how fast light is? Like, we go on tangents here, of course, but it's all related. The speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second. That means like it would go around the equator 10 times in a second. That's how fast light is. And at that speed, it's going to take like 14 billion years to get across all those stars. Right? It's fucked up. I'm just saying, we just walk around like everything's normal. Like, but that's weird. We live in a weird, strange, magical, mystical universe that, I don't know about you, but personally, I didn't really even notice. I just went along with this, growing up, I had this hyper-rational view of the world where it's like, I can break everything down into its component parts, understand them, build them back up, get a sense of what's going on. You really can't. Like if you just go deep down that path, you find that you just get to a different category. It no longer makes sense even to think about matter when you get to a certain state, when it gets really low in the scales. And somehow we make sense of it through talking, really. Like when we're communicating, we're talking. Like we're just trying to make sense of it. It's like it's like that lifeboat we just wake up on. What the fuck is going on? Nobody really knows. We have our theories. We have wars over them. We don't know what's going on. But we talk it out. That's how we make sense of it all. And you wouldn't really talk unless there was another, right? I mean, private language doesn't really make sense. So, talking. I guess we're talking about talking. I'll probably cut it there. Thanks very much, guys.
Everyone. Jake Jenk, everyone. Jake has the best acid. And when we would chill at his place in Ronsi, I'd be like lying there on the carpet like this, and he'd be chilling on the couch, and he'd be talking the same way. And your imagination just like kicks into overdrive, and you're like, yeah. Our next guest. That man with the boisterous laugh, who may have another poem that he's memorized, or not. Mr. Dan Stewart, everyone. Here you go, Dan.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? I knew this was a very open mic, but I didn't realize it was going to be this open. Like, we can really come up here for as long as we want. It's kind of cool. Let's see. I'm going to talk about a few things that just came off my head while some of you guys, some of my peers, were chatting or were doing their comedy. And then I'm going to say a few jokes. And I think that'll be it. I might do some crowd work. We will see. So yeah, first of all, I think it's really cool that we have this place. And I think in addition to that, it's really cool that some of the thoughts and words that are uttered in these walls may never leave this building. It's really neat because it's very special. There's things that you can share here that maybe you don't want to share somewhere else. And that's a tough thing to have. Sometimes we only share things with ourselves. Sometimes we don't even share things with ourselves. And so it's important to be able to do both. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you very much. The second thing, when Jake was talking, it really got me thinking about my university sociology teacher. And I don't remember her name. She was a lovely lady. But she talked to us about this concept of seeing the strange in the familiar. And it's something that it's probably the only thing that I remember from the class. Sorry. But it's a cool concept because all the time when we're looking at society or the world or anything at all, we typically get very familiarized by it. And then when we're familiarized by these things, we no longer see the intricacies of them or the awe, as you put it. And being able to step outside of oneself and being able to see that we live in a really crazy world, which is in a really crazy galaxy, which is in a really crazy universe, which may in fact be a simulation. We don't really know. Or talking about, the electrons and the protons and the gluons and the whatever else there are, the quarks. That's a cool word. I like the words that these scientists come up with. It makes me think about the most famous equation that we all know. Can anybody tell me the most famous equation that everybody or nearly everybody in the world knows?
E equals MC squared.
What's that?
E equals MC squared.
E equals MC squared. Exactly. There are 8-year-old boys and girls that know this equation, and they may not know exactly what it means, but they know this equation. And it's so simple, and it's so interesting, and it's also so very complex. If you look at E equals MC squared, I went to this conference that I was grateful enough or fortunate enough to go to. It was in Tucson, Arizona, and this was back in 2012. It was called Towards a Science of Consciousness. And there was a number of people there that were talking about quantum, and they were talking about what exactly is consciousness, which is such an interesting thing that we really don't know yet. And one of the guys that I happened to meet at that conference, he was very passionate, as many of them were, and he was talking all about this equation and how, even the smallest gram or milligram of mass or matter has such a huge amount of energy in it, because when you multiply that mass by the speed of light squared, the number is so vast that you could barely even conceive of it. It's an insane amount of energy in this table, or in this microphone, or in my eyeball, or even in the light, that takes a certain amount of time to get from where it is to where I am. And it makes me almost think, like, are we always looking into the past? Whenever we see anything, if it takes 8 minutes for light to come from the sun to us, I guess that means that we're looking into the past at all times, even if it's at a small scale. I'm not seeing your present self, I'm seeing you from a microsecond behind what you're doing right now. Interesting, very interesting. Where am I going to segue? I guess I'll segue to a little bit of comedy. Your name's Gabby?
Yeah.
Gabby, terrific job. I really appreciate that you said the comedic jokes that you had last week. Even though we had heard them, we didn't remember all of them, and I think it's really good to be able to strengthen that muscle, because you know them, and we're still learning, or we're still hearing them, and it makes you better at it. So there's no problem with ever saying a joke more than once. It doesn't negate the value of it. The one joke that you had about being on Pornhub and the ad asking you, what was the thing?
Are you tired of masturbating?
Are you tired of masturbating? Yeah, exactly. You just started, yeah. Like I kind of thought like quitting was for pussies, but I guess that's not the case. That's certainly not the case. They're not quitting. It's good, and so yeah. I guess it's only my uncle who says that quitting's for pussies, and that's when he's talking about his smoking addiction. But fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see what else. Oh, you talked a little bit about Harry Potter. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and it got me thinking about the Slytherins, and I feel as though maybe all Slytherin men are gay, and all Slytherin women are nymphomaniacs, because it's a very phallic kind of what would be the name for the crest, or what are the different things, the houses. It's a very phallocentric house. If you'll take me for this, a lot of worshiping of snakes, a lot of talking about snakes, talking like snakes, holding snakes. I personally, I feel as though I'm more of a Ravenclaw, or maybe a Gryffindor. I'm anything other than a Slytherin. That's just myself. Yes. One last thing that I had about the universe, and it's funny because sometimes people just talk about something, and it's like a synchronicity or something. It's like when someone's talking about something, you're like, I was just thinking about that right now, or like today, and it's always weird when there's those connections. I saw something recently, and I'm going to pull it up because I don't know if I'll remember exactly what it said, but let me see if I can find it. Let's see. It was something like, the universe isn't just as crazy as we can. The universe isn't just crazier than we can. The universe isn't just crazy; it's crazier than we can even imagine. Something like that. I'm getting it wrong. I wish I had it on my phone here somewhere. I'm sure I got it on, but it was Heisenberg who said this. It's a famous quote by Heisenberg. It's something like, the universe isn't just crazy; it's crazier than you could even imagine and you could even conceive. Which I think is like, it's so true. I mean, like, we may be living in a simulation. I remember watching a YouTube video. It was Neil deGrasse Tyson and a few other physicists. One of them, a very prominent physicist, not just a guy who talks to people that are non-physicists, but a guy who's doing the actual mathematics and such. And I guess the question to him was something about the mathematical code or the computer code of the universe. And when a bunch of these physicists were coming together and studying the universe, they noticed that there is a computer code to the universe that we live in, to the reality that we live in. Not something like a computer code, but a computer code. Like it literally is the same or you know, as close to being the same as a computer code as we can get. And that's just such an interesting thing, because it makes you wonder. Like, there's a lot of people who don't believe in a higher power, whatever that is. And, you know, it's tough to say if it's this person or that person, you know, God is a man or a woman or this and that. But the computer code, like if that's real, then maybe there's something or someone or whatever that created all this. It's hard for me to not fathom or not at least have somewhat of a thought towards or belief in, even though I don't know what it is. Now on that note, I think I will say a little bit of comedy. I was fortunate enough last night to go to a comedy show that was at the First Ontario Centre that's here in Hamilton, not far from where we are right now. And it was Anthony Jeselnik, as well as a girl named Elizabeth Vagiano. Now, personally, I feel as though her last name is one dyslexic away from the word vagina, but I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And she was hilarious. She was the opener for Anthony Jeselnik, and they both have got their dark humor and some things that were very edgy, which I was just in tears over. There was so much good comedy. But the one thing that I didn't like about the show was the heckling. There was a guy, and it was a gentleman. I knew that it wasn't a girl because I could hear the voice. And he must have had a few too many drinks or whatever. You know, we are living in Hamilton. And he just kept heckling. He was heckling, like, not nonstop, but frequently. And I did want to let Anthony and Elizabeth know that heckler was my dad. And I'm not sorry for it. I'm not sorry for it. The reason being is because now everyone knows how I feel. I'm not the only one. I'm not alone anymore. Because now the entire First Ontario Concert Hall knows what it's like to be fucked by my dad. Yes. It wasn't my dad, but it's a good joke, right? All right. 9/11. Wow. I hate opening my phone and it says 9/11. I prefer when it's like 11/11. That's my favorite. I think that's everyone's. It's when you make a wish. 9/11 still creeps me out. Let me see. Okay, so I've got a few jokes about the gym. I've been going to the gym recently. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. No, that's fine. I don't expect an applause because, first of all, it's a very small audience we have, but also I don't actually work out at the gym. I just really like to people watch. And there are some interesting characters that you see at the gym. I don't know if you've seen this before, if you've been to the gym lately, but there's some interesting folks that are at the gym, and there's a few stereotypes. There seems to always be a guy at the gym that's on an entirely different pre-workout than you are. And you know, the best way I could explain it is that he's really passionate about the 1980s catalytic converters and that thing that he did just moments ago in the alley. He's been at the gym for 4 hours because that's where he actually lives. What else? Oh, I feel like that guy doesn't really need to be at the gym. He needs to be at a rehabilitation clinic. That's where he needs to go. The gym is not the cure for that. But there's a lot of characters at the gym. There's a ton of characters at the gym. Like, I feel as though everybody at the gym... Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Finish the joke.
Okay, sure. I feel as though everybody at the gym looks like they need to take a shit. It's like all the time. Like, just go to the bathroom. Just go to the bathroom. And the last one I'll say is that I find that the guys at the gym, they're always shaking their arms. they're always shaking their arms around at the gym, doing this. And I went up to a guy at the gym that was shaking his arm and I said, "Are you jerking off a ghost right now? What the hell's going on?" There was another guy at the gym who had his shirt on backwards. And I'm a really nice guy. I thought, listen, I'll let the guy know. Maybe he's had a rough day. I let him know. I said, "Listen, sir, I'm pretty sure your shirt's on backwards." And he didn't even thank me for it. He just went, "Ah!" I was like, oh, you must be on the same pre-workouts as that other guy. Jeez. The last one I'll leave you guys on is there was a guy at the gym who had a tattoo. It was a Japanese, I think it was a Japanese tattoo that was on his arm. And I found that interesting. You know, he wasn't a Japanese guy, and he's obviously got a big tattoo on his arm. And I said, you know, what does that mean? It must be something really meaningful to you. You've got it all over your shoulder. And he said, "Oh, this? It means fuck Trudeau." I was like, oh my God, man, right on. Jeez, that's commitment. And you know he doesn't read it, so anyways, that's it for me, guys. I didn't mean to go over time.
Thank you, Dan. Everyone, Dan Stewart. Wow, that was a deep dive, and then it ended off in laughter. Thank you, Dan. Okay, for our next performer, did you have enough practice now? And your last name is pronounced Ona?
Yeah.
Everyone, Renata Ona. Round of applause.
Ew. Oh, you really cannot. I see a forearm there and like a shape of a head. Okay, hi everybody. Yeah, I think that Dan just stole my bit, actually. Because I was going to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to come up here and weave my way through everyone's, you know, stories that they brought up and figure out a way to like really tie it together. And I still think I can. I'm going to just digress a bit. I read this book once, and it was by the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she wrote a different book. It was called Big Magic. Has anybody read it?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. Good. It's a good book, eh?
Oh, great book.
Yeah. And so one of the theses in the book is that, and it's meant to help creatives, is that ideas don't belong to any one person. Ideas instead are their own separate entities, like ghosts, potentially. That's been a theme of the evening. And they kind of just frequent different people who may be more or less open to their presence. So they like sort of knock on your figurative, you know, soul door, and they just kind of ask to be like let in. And some people are more likely to, you know, be hospitable to ideas than other people. And sometimes when you let an idea in, you're kind of like housing it and incubating and stuff, but if you let too many in, then you don't pay attention enough to all of them. So some become neglected and then they decide to leave and then they move on. And so that's why sometimes, you know, you might be in a completely different corner of the world or of your life and you see someone who has literally your idea and it's not your idea, it was the idea, but they were just the one who cultivated it into being. And so I really love that because no one person, that's so much pressure on one person to think that your idea needs to come to life, or like if it doesn't go well, it was your failure, but really it was just the idea. It wasn't anything to do with you. So geniuses and, you know, the struggle of the genius is to like, you know, the struggle is real, then like the passion and all that, like it really is, that's person dependent, but the idea just wants to come to life. So anyway, I don't know, I just thought of that today. And it feels like we're all sharing similar ideas today. So like ghosts and the universe. And I have to say that literally this morning I sent a text to my best friend, and it was on I was reading an anatomy textbook today, I was studying a bit. And I got really into like the org chem part, and part of that is matter. And we talked about all the things, you know, the atoms broken down into protons, neutrons, electrons, into quarks and stuff. well, and this is where I deviate because I know we've already gone really down this rabbit hole a couple times, but the idea of alchemy, so what blew my mind was that radioisotopes, which are just a really volatile version of an element, because there could be several versions of an element, when they decay, they like kind of shed out their skin. And they decay so fast, sometimes it can be really explosive. That's why uranium and its isotopes are pretty crazy. It can decay so fast that it sheds some of its protons and neutrons, which is what comprises the atom, and what makes it an element, the number of protons and neutrons that they have, that makes the element. So they can shed one, so they can suddenly become another element by that. So that image that we have of like that silly scientist hunched over 500, 700 years ago, you know, in the appendage to the castle, just like puttering around, and sometimes you go to them for health advice, but in his spare time, between giving health advice to the people who live at the castle, he decides to like do his alchemy side hustle, and like everyone thinks that, you know, he's pretty crazy, but no, he was onto something, because potentially lead could turn to gold under this. Unfortunately, maybe it's not lead to gold, it might be like uranium to something else, but like he was onto something, and that kind of wisdom does transcend, you know, generations and technology and such. And what else did I want to say? Okay, so I'm gonna it's not a segue, I'm just gonna pivot real quick. Why I really loved seeing the Center for Talking Arts last week, and I saw a lot of you guys there. I saw Cole, I saw Gabby, I saw Dan, didn't see, Mike? Nice, did not see you, sorry. Today I see your forearms, but, and he, I was sitting there, and I guess, I haven't done something like this in a long time, and I fell in love with talking all over again, but more so listening to people talk. Because it's usually like a wave, you know, people, they have highs, lows, sometimes people are funnier than others, sometimes people are more compelling than others. Sometimes, you know, even if you're not compelling or whatever, it's just nice to hear someone's voice kind of take you away. Not just the voice, you get to hear what they're going through in their life or what they think about. That's the simplest thing. You can just be like, yeah, I think about that too. Or there were so many stories last week where it was a bit hard to listen to, where some of the comedy was real dark, or I think, and I was like, wow, I guess I had no idea, that people, not that I had no idea, but it's wow, this person's right here talking about their experience, and I get to listen to it, and I guess that's what it ties back to Jake's point, where, you know, you get to suddenly make sense of a little bit more of the world and suddenly feel a little less isolated, a little less like you're the only person going through your experience. And that's what I really liked about hearing people talk last week. So what I was really excited to bring to the table this week was a little storybook that I had written, and it's kind of along the theme of ghosts. And do I still have time?
Yes.
Okay. It's called Horror Stories from Here. So I'm from Hamilton, born and raised, but I did go away for a while. And when I came back, I kind of fell in love with the city all over again. But I've also, you know, it's a post-COVID world, it's a little bit more isolated, so I find myself sometimes being a little bit more comfortable or a little less comfortable with some silences and sometimes being alone in my house. So one day I was doing a load of laundry and this story just came to me. So it's what I'll read to you, and it's what I'll leave you with. She was in the basement, loading laundry into the machine, when she heard a creak upstairs. Just the children, she thought, and she continued. In went the borax, in went the sunlight. She exhaled and realized she doesn't have any children. This is how the story always goes, doesn't it? One is home, alone. The loved one is out. It's always worse when someone could have been home, but they're not. They could have heard the scream. Maybe they could have helped. Silly. So silly, she thought. But her head darted up because she caught something white move in her periphery. Of course, nothing was there. She loaded her arms with the snowboard and the bag, and the snowboard was sharp enough and large enough to defend her if she encountered anything or anyone up the stairs, right? Silly. So silly. There's nothing there. Did she hear a familiar shuffling? Her loved one in the room? Unseen, but just around the corner? No. That loved one was out. That part was already made clear. What is happening? Silly. So silly. Yet, when it comes to time to turn off the lights, she cursed the lights that did not have a sister switch at the top of the stairs. She had no choice but to turn off the light so far from upstairs. It's like, and the sudden darkness was thrilling, like in a painful way. She moved the board this way, that, testing her agility in her arms. Another flick. She swallowed, but her throat was dry, and the taste in her mouth was suddenly sour. So silly how the mind plays tricks, but the body doesn't know the difference. A deep breath, the last flick, then silence. There was nothing there. See? Nothing there. A deep breath. Ooh, she turned, her back now facing the empty room, the room where she thought she had seen something white move, where she had heard a shuffle, but nothing smashed her across the back of her shoulders, nothing sawed at her neck, nothing screamed in her ear. Her silly breath was shallow and her body was tense as she mounted the stairs. She made it safely to the top of the stairs. Nothing had bashed her kneecaps, nor held a gun to her temple, ordering her to save them, their reeking breath steaming in her ear. She dumped her packages, snowboard rolled awkwardly to one side, and she just stared at it. She whirled around, yet no fist slammed her face. No swampy monster with mummified limbs met her at the landing, breathing heavily, leaving no room for escape. She slid down the wall in the corner of the room between the shoe rack and the closet door, rubbed her forehead with 3 fingers, and when she looked up, she did not see him or anyone. The silence bore down on her until she heard the whirl of the washing machine, and then a gentle click, click, click on its glass door, waiting for the time to be up. Thank you.
We're not own anyone. That was deep as well. Sorry, I'm thinking of ghost stories now.
Do you want to take a break, you think?
We will. I wanted to also mention Jackie, you have an opportunity to come up. Also Millie, who's been handling the multicam video system. You have an opportunity to come up, and but it seems like a good time to take an intermission first, and then we can start if you would like to, Jackie, Millie. Okay, so let's take a break for a hard 15 minutes. It's 9:27 now. We'll start at 9:45. Okay.